Good evening, my dear friend. Wherever you are in the world, whatever time it may be outside your window, be it morning, afternoon, or the deep, quiet night as it is here with me, I am so glad you have chosen to join us for this gentle, timeless journey. Now, please, find a position that is most comfortable for you. Allow your body to feel truly supported, truly at ease. Let us begin together, with a long, deep, and purifying breath. Through your nose, very, very slowly, inhale the cool, fresh air, feeling it as a gentle stream of life, flowing past your nostrils, down your throat, and gently, fully, filling your entire chest and abdomen. Then, when the breath is full, without any pause, simply allow it to flow out of your mouth, softly, completely, like a silken thread, unraveling into the quiet space around you. And as this breath leaves you, feel it carry away everything from the day, the lingering thoughts, the residual fatigue in your body, the subtle, unknown tensions, let them all, with this breath, gently, leave you. Very good. Let's do that one more time. A deeper, slower inhalation, feel your abdomen, with the breath, expand like a balloon, slowly, and fully. And then, a longer, more soothing exhalation, feel your body, bit by bit, growing heavier, softer, as if it's melting into the surface beneath you. You feel an unprecedented sense of stability, a feeling of absolute safety, as if you are being held gently by the entire world. Now, just allow your breathing to return to its own natural, comfortable rhythm. You no longer need to control it. You are simply a quiet observer, gently noticing the tranquility that each inhale brings, and the relaxation that each exhale offers. Your consciousness, like a feather, begins to float on the gentle breeze of your breath, drifting slowly, lightly, upward, through the ceiling of your room, through the sleeping city, through the soft layers of clouds, and into the mists of a time long, long ago. We are going to visit our ancestors, the women of medieval Europe. A long era, stretching from the 5th to the 15th century. It was an age of knights and castles, plagues and crusades. An age of soaring Gothic cathedrals, and of vast, sprawling manors ruled by lords. Before we fully immerse ourselves in this distant past, let us first allow our consciousness to feel the basic texture of that world. Imagine, if you will, a world lit only by fire. A world where the rhythm of life revolves entirely around the rising and the setting of the sun. You feel yourself standing in the vast countryside of medieval Europe. Night has fallen. There are no streetlights, no neon signs, only the clear, cool light of the moon in the sky, and a brilliant tapestry of stars, seemingly much brighter than in our own time. In the distance, the silhouette of a massive, solemn stone castle stands against the night sky. Its towers and battlements, in the moonlight, are like a silent giant, watching over the quiet land. And below the castle, small villages are scattered about. The villages are clusters of low-lying cottages with thatched roofs. At this moment, from the chimneys of a few of these cottages, a thin, curling wisp of smoke is rising. The air is filled with a unique scent, an aroma that belongs only to that era. It is a mixture of the smell of burning wood smoke, the scent of freshly baked dark bread, and the warm, rustic, earthy smell of livestock from a nearby farm. Listen, the sounds around you also form a unique medieval symphony. There is the barking of a few house dogs in the distance, the last rhythmic clanging of a hammer on an anvil from the blacksmith's shop as he finishes his day's work, and the dry, rustling sound of the wind as it blows through the thatched roofs. This was a world of extremes. The unimaginable luxury and grandeur of a privileged few, and the grinding poverty of the masses, struggling on the edge of survival. And our story tonight begins with one of these many, a tiny life, just now arriving in this world. Allow your consciousness, like an invisible wisp of smoke, to drift gently through the rough, wooden and wattle-and-daub walls of a small cottage, and to enter the room inside. This is the home of a common medieval peasant family. The first thing you feel is how dim the light is. The only source of light comes from a simple hearth in the center of the room, built from stones. Inside, a few logs are quietly, tirelessly burning, giving off a warm, orange-yellow glow, and filling the entire room with the warm, reassuring scent of burning wood. You see that the floor of the room is simply hard-packed earth, trodden down by generations of feet. If this family were slightly better off, perhaps they would have a few rough, unpolished wooden planks laid across the floor. But even so, you can still feel a damp, cool air seeping up from the ground, a chill that seems to go straight to your bones. Above, the thick thatched roof may keep out the worst of the rain, but you can still see traces of water stains in some corners. Maintaining the roof against leaks, rats, and insects is a constant, unending challenge for this family. In this dim, small, and even somewhat suffocating space, you see a medieval woman, huddled by the hearth. She is the mistress of this home. She has just endured a long and arduous childbirth, a journey that hovered on the edge of life and death. Her face is filled with exhaustion, stained with soot from the fireplace. She is wearing an old dress, woven from coarse wool, its original color long since faded. Her hands, chapped and rough from years of constant labor, are now, with incredible gentleness and care, holding a tiny infant, wrapped in old, worn fabric. This is a fragile baby girl, just born into this world. From the moment she took her first breath, the path of her life was already quietly written by the rules of this era. You see the mother pull the child closer to her, tighter in her arms, as if trying to use the warmth of her own body to shield the infant from the coldness and harshness of the world. She looks at the baby's sleeping, peaceful little face, and her eyes are filled with the most complex and profound emotions. There is the unparalleled joy and tenderness of a new mother, but at the same time, there is a subtle, yet undeniable shadow of deep worry for her daughter's future. She knows all too well the hardships and injustices a girl will face in this world. She lowers her head, and with her cheek, she gently, tenderly, brushes against the baby's soft, still damp hair. And then, she begins to hum, in a voice that is so very soft, it is almost just breath. She hums an ancient, simple lullaby, one that has been passed down from mother to daughter for generations. The melody is very simple, perhaps even monotonous. There are no ornate words, no complex scales. It is just a mother, out of the most primal love, singing the most gentle blessing for her child. Her voice, mixed with the soft crackling of the logs burning in the hearth, becomes the only, and the warmest, sound in this dim little cottage. This sound seems to possess a kind of magic. It makes the cold night wind that seeps through the cracks in the roof seem to grow gentle. It makes all the unknown, frightening sounds in the darkness outside gradually fade away. In this simple, poor cottage, it builds a small, undisturbed, warm, and safe enclosure, built of love. And you, as a quiet, invisible visitor in this time and space, in this lullaby by the hearth, feel that most primordial and greatest of all loves, a love that transcends 1,000 years of time. Feel the real, tangible warmth that comes from the dancing flames. Feel the irreplaceable sense of security that comes from this ancient song. You feel your own body, just like that infant held tightly in its mother's arms, being enveloped and protected by a great and gentle power. All of your defenses can be let down. All of your thoughts can be stilled. In this eternal lullaby, a lullaby belonging to all mothers, allow your consciousness to quietly come to rest. Feel this most primal and pure warmth and tranquility, and let it become the most solid foundation within you. Your journey has only just begun. Now, within this unconditional protection, take one more long, deep, and peaceful breath, gathering peace, and waiting for this little life to slowly grow up. Let that ancient and warm lullaby continue to echo softly, deep within your soul. That peace of a newborn, of being unconditionally protected, is the softest place within you. Now, let us carry this tranquility with us, as we watch that little life, held so gently by the hearth, slowly, gently, grow up. The sands of time have slipped by, unnoticed. Several years have passed, like a quiet morning mist, gently dissipating around your serene consciousness. The infant from our last dream is now a little girl. Our awareness now comes to be beside her, seeing the world through her eyes, hearing the world through her ears. Her world is very small. Her entire universe is almost entirely contained within this small cottage, built of mud and straw. You can feel yourself now, sitting on the cool, hard-packed earth of the floor. A single beam of sunlight pushes through the only small, unglazed opening in the wall, creating a visible shaft of light in the dim air. Countless tiny dust motes dance slowly, silently, up and down within this beam. You smell that familiar scent in the air, a mixture of wood smoke, dry hay, and stewed vegetables. You hear, from outside, the rhythmic, muffled thud of your mother's wooden paddle as she beats the wet laundry, a steady beat in the quiet afternoon. For you, this is the entire cosmos. In the Middle Ages, childhood was a very brief, one might even say, almost non-existent concept. Children were seen as miniature adults. Once they were old enough to walk and talk, they were expected to begin contributing to the family's labor in whatever small way they could. Childhood was more like a long apprenticeship for adulthood. And for a girl, this apprenticeship revolved almost exclusively around the small, unending tasks of the domestic world. Her education took place almost entirely within the home. Now, you see your mother, having finished the laundry, enter the dim room. In her hands, she holds a soft, fluffy bundle of freshly shorn wool, still carrying the faint scent of grass and lanolin. She sits down beside you and places this bundle of wool in your hands. You can feel its texture, slightly coarse, with tiny bits of straw still mixed within it. Your mother begins to teach you how to clean this messy pile of wool, and then, with your hands, how to comb and stretch it, transforming it into a more orderly form, ready for spinning. Your small hands clumsily imitate your mother's movements. Next, your mother brings out her spindle. It is a very simple tool, made of a wooden shaft and a stone or wooden whorl at the bottom. She shows you how to twist the prepared wool fibers together and hook them onto the top of the spindle. Then, with her fingers, she gently sets the spindle spinning in midair. You watch as the spindle, like a tireless ballet dancer, spins continuously, at high speed. And as it spins, the fluffy wool fibers are miraculously stretched and twisted into a thin, strong thread, ready to be woven into cloth. You hear the sound the spindle makes as it spins, a constant, monotonous, and hypnotic humming sound. This sound will accompany you through countless long afternoons and evenings. Your mother places a smaller spindle into your hands. You begin to learn, imitating her, this ancient and important skill. At first, the thread you spin is uneven, sometimes too thick, sometimes too thin, and it often breaks. But you do not get discouraged. Day after day, in this monotonous, repetitive labor, you are cultivating your patience and your focus. Your fingers become more and more nimble. The thread you spin becomes more and more even, more and more strong. You feel that you are transforming the most primal gifts of nature, through your own two hands, into the most useful and practical contribution for your family. When enough thread has been gathered, it is time for weaving. And after weaving, comes sewing. You see your mother take out an old, worn piece of coarse cloth clothing. She hands you a needle carved from bone, and a length of the thread you spun yourself. She teaches you, stitch by stitch, how to carefully, densely, mend the torn places. Your gaze must be completely focused on that tiny needle point. Your breath, in turn, becomes steady and gentle. This, too, is a meditation on focus and patience. In this process, you learn humility, you learn obedience, and you learn the most important virtues for a woman, to use your own hands to create, to mend, to care for, and to serve your family. This is your education. A purely practical education, one learned through observation and imitation, in the repetition of daily labor. However, in this era when almost all girls are destined to keep company only with the needle and the hearth, you have a small, unique stroke of fortune. Your mother, before she was married, worked for a time in a nearby convent. There, from the kind nuns, she learned a skill that was, at the time, seen as both incredibly precious and incredibly useless, to read and write. And so, on some quiet evenings, after the day's work is done and your father has fallen into a deep sleep, your mother will carefully take out a small, worn, leather-bound book from a hidden wooden box. It is a hand-copied prayer book. You move closer to the hearth, and by the flickering, yellow-orange light of the fire, you and your mother open the book together. You can smell the unique, pleasant scent that rises from its pages, a mixture of old parchment, ink, and time itself. You can feel the texture of the pages, a bit rough, even a bit stiff, but they feel sacred in your hands. You see the pages are filled with lines of beautiful, black symbols, like a script from heaven, which you do not understand at all. Your mother points with her finger to one of the symbols, and then, in a very soft, very clear voice, she tells you its sound, and its meaning. She is teaching you the stories from the Bible, the religious doctrines about how a woman should remain humble, chaste, and pious. These teachings, in a way, are reinforcing the invisible cage that confines you. But for you, at this moment, none of that matters. What matters is that you are learning. You are learning how to transform sound into symbols. You are learning how to decipher, from these silent symbols, information from a world far beyond your daily life. Your small finger gently follows your mother's, tracing the outlines of the letters. You feel that each letter has its own unique posture, like a form of dance. This process is so wondrous, so mesmerizing. You feel a small, secret window, one you never imagined existed, being quietly pushed open just a crack, deep within your soul. And through this crack, a faint, yet incredibly precious light from another world is shining through. You still spend most of your days at the spinning wheel and with your needle and thread. You still must learn how to be a proper, obedient daughter, a good wife and mother, whose life is centered on the family. But in these quiet, unknown nights, in this small, worn prayer book, you now possess a small, secret spiritual world of your own. This world will become your most reliable, most inviolable, inner sanctuary in the long, arduous, and challenging years to come. Now, just allow your consciousness to rest in the balance of these two distinct learning experiences. In one hand, is the weight of the spindle, the feel of the needle. It is the tangible, worldly weight of responsibility, that which connects you tightly to your family. In the other hand, are the shapes of the mysterious letters in the prayer book. It is an intangible, spiritual glimmer of knowledge, that which quietly connects you to a much wider world. In the wondrous balance of these two feelings, your body feels incredibly relaxed. And your mind finds a unique, deep serenity of its own. Your journey is still continuing. And this inner, secret light will be the small, unquenchable lighthouse on your path forward. In this unique serenity, just quietly, rest. Allow your consciousness to continue to rest in that wondrous balance. The tangible, worldly weight of responsibility from the needle and thread, and the intangible, spiritual glimmer of knowledge from the prayer book, connecting you quietly to a much wider world. In this unique equilibrium, your mind has found a deep serenity of its own. Now, let us continue to watch this young girl grow. The years have passed like sand through an hourglass. Those quiet days and nights spent at the spinning wheel, by the hearth, learning from a prayer book on her mother's lap, are now many years in the past. She has grown from a curious child into a young woman, poised on the threshold of adulthood. Her world is still very small. It is still this little village, surrounded by fields and forests. But her inner world, because of the stories she has read in the prayer book, stories of saints, of virtues, of distant holy lands, has become richer and more complex than that of any other girl her age. She knows that in this world, a girl's childhood is so very brief. And the end of that childhood usually arrives in a way that is very sudden, and almost entirely beyond her control. That way is marriage. In the Middle Ages, marriage was completely different from what we understand today. It was rarely about love, and seldom about personal fulfillment. It was more like a pragmatic contract, established by the family. A contract designed to strengthen alliances between families, to increase economic stability, and for the most important and practical purpose of all, to produce the next generation. For a girl, her marriage was typically arranged by her father or another male relative. Her own wishes in the matter held almost no weight. Legally, the minimum age for marriage was 12 for a girl, though in the peasant class, most girls married in their late teens or early 20s, as they were a vital source of labor for their birth families. Now, imagine an ordinary afternoon, with a soft, warm breeze. You are this young woman. You have just finished your afternoon chores and are in your small room, quietly doing needlework. Sunlight streams through the small opening in the wall, casting a bright, warm patch of light on the floor. You can hear the constant, sleepy buzzing of bees in the flower patch outside. Everything feels so peaceful, so ordinary. Just then, you hear your father outside the door, calling your name in a tone that is a little more serious, more solemn than usual. You put down your needlework, smooth out your dress, and quietly walk into the main room of the house, the room that gets the most light. You see your father kneeling in the center of the room. A cup of ale sits before him. His face no longer has the easygoing look it has when he jokes with you. Instead, it holds a complex expression you have never seen before, a mixture of solemnity, responsibility, and even a subtle, almost imperceptible trace of pity for you. He asks you to kneel before him as well. The room is very quiet. You can only hear the faint, occasional crackle of the embers cooling in the hearth. Your father is silent for a long time, as if searching for the right words, the kindest way to say what must be said. Finally, he tells you that your marriage has been decided. The other party is the family of a hard-working young man from a neighboring village, who also makes his living from farming. Your father tells you that they are a good family, that they have several acres of fertile land and 2 strong oxen. Your joining them will bring a better future for both of your families. He also tells you that your betrothed is an honest and strong young man, a few years older than you, whom you have never met. As he says these things, your father's gaze never directly meets your eyes. And you, in the instant you hear this news, feel as if the entire world has been muted. You do not feel joy, nor do you feel sorrow. Your mind is a perfect blank. You just kneel there, quietly. Your hands are folded in your lap. Your head is bowed, and you stare at your own hands, which have grown a little rough from years of work. You do not speak. Because you know there is nothing for you to say. You also know that this is the fated day that every girl must eventually face. You simply, quietly, nod your head. An indication that you accept. This important conversation, one that has decided the course of your entire life, ends in a kind of ultimate, even somewhat stifling, calm. Your father lets out a sigh, as if a great weight has been lifted. And you, silently, return to your room. You pick up the needlework you just set down, but your fingers feel a bit clumsy. Your gaze can no longer focus on the tiny point of the needle as it did before. Your eyes look through the small window, out at the vast fields and distant forests that you know so well. And now, all the complex emotions, like the ocean tide returning after it has gone out, slowly begin to wash over your heart. First, there is a deep fear of the unknown. A man you have never met will become the most intimate companion of your life. A household you have never visited will become your new, permanent home. You will have to play a new role there, a wife, and in the future, a mother. All of this is so unfamiliar, so unsettling. Next, there is a quiet sadness of departure. You will have to leave this small cottage, which, though humble, is filled with more than a decade of warm memories. You will have to leave your father, who has always shielded you with his broad shoulders. You will have to leave your dearest mother, the one who taught you to spin and sew, and who, late at night, secretly taught you to read. At this thought, your eyes begin to well up. But you do not let the tears fall. Because you know that in this era, sentimentality is a luxury. Finally, beneath all this fear and sadness, there is a deeper, more resolute emotion. It is a heavy sense of responsibility, as a member of this family. You know that your marriage is not just about you. It concerns the stability and continuation of your entire family. Your obedience, your contribution, is the last and most important thing you can do as a daughter for the family that raised you. And so, slowly, you smooth out the turbulent emotions in your heart. You accept your fate. In the days that follow, you begin to quietly prepare for your wedding. You take out the whitest, softest will you have saved for a long time, and you begin to sew new clothes for yourself, and for your betrothed. Every stitch you make is more focused, more careful than ever before. Because these are not just clothes, they are a demonstration of your skill and virtue as a future mistress of a household. You pack up your few, precious personal belongings. That old, worn prayer book, you place it closest to your heart. On the night before you are to be married, your mother comes to your room. She does not say many sentimental things about the future. She simply, as she did when you were a child, sits beside you and helps you comb your long hair. Her fingers pass through your hair, her movements so gentle, so full of love. The two of you do not speak. But you both understand the deep, unspoken reluctance in each other's hearts. The wedding ceremony is very simple. There is no ornate white dress, no grand celebration. You simply wear the new clothes you made yourself, and in the presence of both families and a few village elders, you exchange vows with that unfamiliar young man, who seems just as formal and shy as you are. A passing priest offers a simple prayer and blessing for you both. And then, you are no longer your father's daughter. You are now your husband's wife. Your identity, your belonging, your lifelong loyalty, are all, in this moment, formally transferred to another man, and to another family. After the ceremony, you sit on a simple wooden cart, pulled by an ox, and begin the unknown journey to your new home. You look back, towards the home where you have lived for more than a decade. You see your mother, standing at the doorway, quietly watching you leave. There are no tears on her face, but her eyes are filled with all the complex emotions that you can understand. You turn your head forward and do not look back again. Your gaze is fixed on the muddy road ahead, the road that leads to an unknown future. There is still unease in your heart. But there is more of a quiet, even brave, resolve, that comes from accepting one's destiny. You do not know what kind of life awaits you. But you are ready. Ready to meet it, to bear it, to use everything you have learned from your mother to try and make your future home as full of warmth and resilient life as the one you are leaving behind. Allow your consciousness now, to rest in this complex, unique state of mind of a medieval bride. Feel that faint fear of the unknown. Feel that silent sadness of departure. And also feel that quiet, powerful courage to accept responsibility, hidden beneath your submission. Your journey is about to enter a new stage. In this feeling of both fragility and resilience, this incredibly real female emotion, allow your body and mind to pause for a moment, to gather your strength, preparing to greet the unfamiliar door that you are about to push open. That simple, ox-drawn cart that carries you has been swaying on the country road for who knows how long. And that unique state of mind of a bride, a mixture of unease and resolve, has also, with this rhythmic swaying, slowly, completely, settled within you. Finally, the cart stops. You hear a murmur of welcoming voices ahead. The unfamiliar door of your new life has been reached. Now, let us accompany her, take one more long, deep, and steady breath, and then, gently, push open that door, to greet a brand new identity, the chatelaine, the mistress of the house. You step inside. This is your future home. A world that is, to you, completely new. The first thing you feel is that the space here is a little larger than the small cottage where you grew up, and it appears cleaner and more prosperous. But at the same time, you also sense an unfamiliar atmosphere in the air. It is the unique scent of this new family's life, You see your husband, the young man who seemed just as uncertain as you at the wedding, now a bit clumsily introducing you to this home. And from the depths of the room, an older woman with a serious face and hair already streaked with gray, slowly walks out. She is the current mistress of this house, your mother-in-law. In her hands, she holds a large, heavy ring of keys, made of bronze or iron. She walks up to you, and with a complex, scrutinizing gaze, she looks you up and down. Then, she solemnly places that heavy ring of keys into your hands. You feel the weight of those keys in your palm. They are cool, hard, and heavy. This handover ceremony is silent, but the meaning it represents is incredibly clear. From this moment on, the management of this household's inner affairs, the food, clothing, and daily life of every member of this family, will be your responsibility. You are no longer the carefree daughter who only needed to follow her parents' arrangements. You have become the mistress of this house. This ring of keys is your power, and it is also the heavy responsibility that you can never set down for the rest of your life. In the first few days, you feel a little lost. You try your best to adapt to the rhythm of this new home, to learn and understand all the unwritten rules here. You carefully handle your relationships with your husband's family, striving to find your own place in this new family order. And then, gradually, you begin to truly fulfill your duties as the mistress of the house. Let us follow you, and experience an ordinary day in your life as the chatelaine. The sky is not yet light. The entire village is still shrouded in a deep blue, pre-dawn silence. You are already awake. You get dressed, your movements very gentle, afraid of waking your husband who is still fast asleep beside you. Your day begins with an inspection of your domain. You first go to the kitchen. This is the heart of the entire household. At this moment, the fire in the hearth has gone out. Only some embers, still holding a little warmth, remain. You feel that the early morning air is a bit cold. You walk to the storeroom and check the family's food supplies. You reach your hand into a sack full of grain, feeling the fullness and dryness of the kernels. You look at the salted meat hanging from the rafters, and the root vegetables stored in the cellar for the winter. In your mind, you must carefully calculate how long these supplies will last for the entire family. How to use the most limited resources to provide the most nutritious, and as tasty as possible, food for your family. Next, you begin to light the fire. You place new logs into the hearth. Then, using a flint, you strike a spark and ignite the dry tinder. A wisp of smoke slowly rises. Soon, a warm, orange-red flame is once again dancing in the hearth. This flame will bring warmth and food to this home for the entire day. By the time the servants, if your family is wealthy enough to have them, and the children have all woken up, you have already prepared a simple but hot breakfast for them. You begin to methodically assign the day's work. You tell the cook the menu for lunch and dinner. You tell the cleaning servant which areas need special attention. You check if the children are properly dressed, and if they are ready for the things they need to learn today. Your voice is not loud, but it is filled with an unquestionable authority. Every instruction you give is clear, specific, and full of practical wisdom. Because you know that a household is like a precision instrument, only when every part is doing the right thing at the right time can the entire home operate smoothly and in an orderly fashion. In the afternoon, when the hustle and bustle of the house has temporarily subsided, you have a quiet period of work for yourself. You come to a small room dedicated to managing the accounts. You sit down and spread open an account book, bound with thick paper. You begin to use a quill pen, dipping it in ink, to carefully record every recent expense of the household. In the room, you can hear only the very faint, reassuring scratching sound of your pen moving across the paper. If your family also runs a small business, such as brewing ale or weaving cloth, you might also use an abacus. You can hear the wooden beads of the abacus, under your fingertips, being quickly moved, colliding with each other, creating a series of crisp, pleasant, rhythmic sounds. You may not know all the letters, and your calculations may rely on the most basic addition and subtraction. But you, with the meticulous care and prudence unique to a woman, manage every penny of this family's income and every single expense, keeping everything in perfect order. You are like the most competent chancellor of the exchequer of a kingdom. Except, your kingdom is this small home, enclosed by its walls. In the evening, when your husband and the men of the household return, tired from a day's work in the fields or at the Lord's estate, what greets them is a clean, tidy, warm home, and a hot dinner that has long been prepared. You see them at the dinner table, talking loudly about the outside world, about the harvest, about the Lord's decrees, about neighborhood disputes. And you, quietly, serve them more food, pour them more ale, ensuring that everyone is well taken care of. You rarely interrupt. Because you know that in this era, loud talk at the dinner table is a privilege reserved for men. Your role is to be the silent guardian, the one who ensures that everything is in perfect order, unseen. The night grows deep. When everyone else has fallen into a deep sleep, you, as the mistress of this house, might be the last one to go to bed. You inspect your kingdom one last time. You check if the fire in the kitchen hearth has been safely extinguished. You check if the doors and windows of the storeroom have been securely locked. You tuck the blankets in for your sleeping children. Finally, you return to your own room. That heavy ring of keys, the symbol of your identity and your responsibility, rests by your pillow. You lie down, and you feel that your body is incredibly tired from a full day of labor. But your heart, because you have successfully, methodically, managed this home, feels a deep, irreplaceable sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. Your world may not have epic, sweeping events. Your achievements will not be written into any hero's biography. But you know that it is you, and the millions of silent, resilient women like you, who, with your daily, unending toil and meticulous management, have built the most stable and solid foundation for all of medieval society. You are the uncrowned queen of this home. Now, just allow your consciousness to rest in this unique, powerful tranquility of the chatelaine. Feel that heavy sense of responsibility that comes from managing a home. And also feel that irreplaceable sense of accomplishment that comes after putting everything in perfect order. Your next journey will be a more challenging chapter, one about motherhood. And at this moment, within this quiet and powerful kingdom of your own, allow your body and mind to pause for a moment, to gather strength and peace. Allow your consciousness to rest in that unique, powerful tranquility of the chatelaine. Feel the heavy sense of responsibility that comes from managing a home, and also feel the irreplaceable sense of accomplishment that comes after putting everything in perfect order. Now, within this quiet and powerful kingdom of your own, allow your body and mind to pause for a moment, to gather strength and peace. For your next journey will be a more challenging, and more meaningful chapter, one about motherhood. Time flows quietly on in the repetition of daily, peaceful domestic work. You have now fully integrated into this new family. With your wisdom and hard work, you have earned the respect of everyone. The cool, iron keys at your waist seem to have grown warm from the constant touch of your hand. But you know in your heart that as the mistress of this house, you have one more crucial, irreplaceable mission yet to fulfill. And that is to bear an heir for your husband, for this family. In this era, whether for the poorest peasant woman or the most noble queen, a woman's value was, to a large extent, tied to her fertility. And giving birth to a healthy son was the most glorious gift she could offer to her husband's family. This expectation, like a silent, immense pressure, hangs over every married woman. Finally, one morning, you feel a wondrous, new change taking place within your body. A new life is quietly gestating within you. Your heart is filled with hope, and also with fear. In that age of extremely limited medical knowledge, every pregnancy and childbirth was an arduous journey, one that navigated the very edge of life and death. The door to the birthing room was, for every woman, a literal door to life and death. You see your family begin to look at you with a complex gaze, a mixture of joy and worry. Your mother-in-law prepares more nutritious food for you. Your husband exempts you from the most strenuous physical tasks. The entire household enters a quiet, expectant state of waiting. You feel your body, day by day, growing heavier. But your heart, because it is nurturing a new life, feels an unprecedented, deep connection to the world, to the very source of life itself. On some quiet afternoons, you will sit in the courtyard, your hand resting gently on your swelling abdomen. You feel that tiny life, occasionally, making a soft, gentle movement within you. Each small flutter is like a silent, mysterious conversation, filling you with incredible happiness and emotion. You also find yourself going to the small village church to pray more often than ever before. You ask for the protection of the Virgin Mary, hoping she will bless you and your child, so that you may both pass safely through this great trial. And then, that day arrives. You feel waves of rhythmic contractions, like the tide, begin to wash over your body. You are helped into a warm, dim room, one that has been prepared long in advance to serve as a temporary birthing chamber. This is a sacred space, belonging only to women. You see that the doors and windows of the room have been covered with thick curtains, leaving only 1 or 2 candles in the corners to provide a faint, soft light. The air is filled with a unique, warm scent, a mixture of herbs, clean linen, and human effort. The fire in the hearth is burning brightly, keeping the entire room at a comfortable temperature that allows the body to relax. You are lying on a bed, covered with a soft, clean blanket. You are surrounded by women. There is the experienced, respected village midwife, your own mother, your mother-in-law, and some female relatives from your husband's family. Their faces are all solemn and concerned. Every movement they make seems so calm, so experienced. You hear them, by your ear, in a very soft, very steady, almost hypnotic tone, constantly encouraging and comforting you. They tell you that this is a path that every woman must walk. They tell you that you are brave, that you are strong. They guide you on how to breathe and push in rhythm with the contractions. Breathe in. They say softly, and now, slowly, breathe out. You feel the midwife's warm and strong hands, gently massaging your abdomen, trying to ease your discomfort. She also places warm cloths, soaked in herbal infusions, on your forehead and your body. You smell the unique, calming scent of the herbs. The process is long and arduous. You feel as if your body no longer belongs to you. It has become a small boat, tossed about on the immense, powerful waves of life. Wave after wave of a powerful, primal force begins to gather and surge within your body. The only thing you can do is to let go of resistance, to surrender. To surrender to this great, natural force of creation. You completely give your body over to its dominion. You follow the midwife's guidance, taking one deep breath after another. When the wave of a contraction reaches its peak, you use all your strength. When the wave recedes, you allow yourself to fall completely into a brief, unconscious state of deep relaxation. Time, here, has lost all meaning. You do not know if hours have passed, or even if a day, or two, have gone by. You only know that these women around you have always been by your side, never leaving. They take turns wiping away your sweat, feeding you small sips of warm, sweet honey water to replenish your strength. Their prayers, mixed with the sound of your own breathing, form a sacred, powerful chorus. At the most difficult moment, the midwife might even bring a birthing girdle of the Virgin Mary, a relic kept at the local church, and gently place it upon your stomach. This may have no practical effect. But you feel a powerful, spiritual strength from this sacred belief flowing into your body, giving you the courage to persevere. Finally, after one last, immense surge of power that feels as if it might tear you apart, you suddenly feel your body release. The entire world falls silent. And then, you hear it. You hear the sound that you have exchanged half of your own life for, the most beautiful, most wonderful music in the world, the first loud, vibrant cry of your child. In that instant, you feel all the exhaustion, all the pain, recede like a tide, instantly. In its place, is an unprecedented, immense joy of relief, and an immeasurable, gentle love. You see the midwife skillfully clean the small, blood-stained infant, then wrap him, or her, in the softest cloth, and carefully, gently, place the baby in your arms. For the first time, you are holding your own child. You feel his small, soft, yet so very real weight. You smell his unique scent, a mixture of milk and new life. You see his wrinkled, yet so incredibly lovely, sleeping face. You reach out a finger and gently touch his soft cheek. A powerful, primal, unstoppable maternal love, like the warmest flood, instantly overwhelms your entire soul. You know that from this moment on, your life no longer belongs only to you. You and he have become an inseparable community of fate. Your heart is filled with infinite hope for the future. But at the same time, you know that in this era filled with disease, hunger, and accidents, to raise a child safely to adulthood is an incredibly difficult task. Many infants do not even survive their first birthday. This makes the small life in your arms seem all the more precious. Now, just let your consciousness rest in this dim, warm, yet sacred space of a medieval birthing room. Feel the deep exhaustion in your body after the extreme exertion, and also the profound relaxation that follows. And also feel the unparalleled joy and infinite tenderness of being a new mother. Your journey has completed another most important chapter. You are no longer just a wife, a chatelaine. You have become a mother. In this most primal, most profound, and most powerful radiance of motherhood, allow your body and mind to pause for a moment, to quietly feel this newborn, unparalleled sense of completion. In this era, knowledge is an extremely precious, and also an extremely dangerous, thing. When it appears in the hands of a young girl in the form of a prayer book, it is a small window to the spiritual world, secret, safe, and fascinating. But, when it appears in a woman in another, older, more mysterious form, such as the knowledge of herbs, the skill of healing, it can both bring life, and it can also draw the deepest of shadows. Now, let us leave that warm room, filled with the joy of new life. Our consciousness will now travel to visit a woman who possesses this other kind of knowledge, a wise person living on the edge of the village. You see, behind a messy, wild herb garden, there sits a solitary cottage, smaller and more dilapidated than the other farmhouses. Here lives a wise woman. She may be the village midwife who assists in childbirth, or perhaps a healer who understands the properties of herbs. She might be a widow, living alone without a husband or children, or perhaps she is simply an elderly woman, a bit eccentric, not skilled in socializing with others. Let our consciousness gently enter her world. You feel that the air here is different from anywhere else in the village. There is no scent of livestock, no aroma of baking bread. The air here is filled with a unique, rich, and mysterious herbal fragrance, a mixture of 100 different dried plants. You see, hanging from the rafters of the cottage, are strings and bundles of plants you cannot name, all in the process of drying. They are of various colors and strange shapes. An old woman, with white hair and a face full of wrinkles, is sitting by the hearth. With a stone mortar and pestle, she is very focused, grinding some dried leaves and roots into a fine powder. Her movements are very slow, very rhythmic. You can hear the constant, reassuring, soft grinding sound from the stone pestle and mortar. She is the source of wisdom in this village, and also the source of danger. When a woman in the village is having a difficult birth, the people will, half believing, half doubting, ask for her help. She knows which herbs can ease a mother's pain. When a child is burning with a high fever, which at the time was considered a sign of being possessed by an evil spirit, she will use a bitter-tasting potion she has mixed herself to pull the child back from the brink of death. At those times, you would see in the villagers' eyes a fleeting sense of gratitude and awe towards her. But this awe is so fragile. It is like a thin layer of ice, and beneath it is a deeper, darker, cold current of fear. Because the knowledge she possesses is beyond the scope of their understanding. They do not understand why these unremarkable plants have such magical effects. And any powerful force that they do not understand, they will ultimately attribute to magic. And magic, in this era ruled by religious doctrine, is an incredibly dangerous word. Now, imagine that this village has encountered a misfortune. Perhaps it is a sudden, prolonged drought that has caused the crops in the fields to wither and die. Or perhaps it is an inexplicable plague that has caused the village's livestock to fall, one after another. You feel that the entire village is shrouded in an atmosphere of helplessness, despair, and panic. The people gather in the church, praying devoutly to God, but the situation does not improve. And so, in this immense, unplaceable fear, the people begin to need an explanation, an outlet, scapegoat, who can bear the responsibility for all this misfortune. Then, you feel the atmosphere in the village begin to subtly change. When this wise woman, as usual, with her small medicine basket on her back, walks down the dirt road of the village, you see the villagers who once nodded to her begin to subconsciously avoid her gaze. The women who used to gather and chat will immediately stop their conversation when they see her approaching. And then, with a look mixed with fear and suspicion, they will secretly, behind her back, point at her. You can hear whispers, like venomous snakes, beginning to quietly spread through the corners of the village. It's her. It must be her, with her evil magic, who has brought this curse upon our village. I've seen her, on the night of the full moon, chanting strange words to the moon. Her gaze can make milk turn sour, can make a newborn baby cry without end. These whispers are, in themselves, a most vicious form of magic. They are formless and invisible, yet they can completely, cruelly, isolate a person from the community in which she lives. In our dreamscape, no actual, violent trial takes place. We see no instruments of torture, no pyre of burning wood. You simply follow this wise woman back to her lonely cottage. She closes the door, shutting out the malice of the entire world. The room, as always, is filled with the scent of herbs. But at this moment, this fragrance seems so desolate. She sits alone by the hearth. The fire in the hearth has gone out. The room is very cold. She does not cry, nor is she angry. On her face, there is only a deep, stagnant calm, as if she has seen through it all long ago, and an immense, heart-aching loneliness. She has been abandoned by the very people she once helped. She has been judged for the very wisdom she possessed. She has become the shadow of a witch, a lonely symbol that bears the fear and ignorance of the entire village. In this era, any woman who was different, who was unwilling or unable to follow the single path laid out for women by society, could, at any moment, be pushed into such a bottomless abyss of solitude. They might be unmarried, they might be old, or perhaps, it was simply because they knew more than others. Now, just allow your consciousness to pause for a moment in this immense, heart-aching loneliness. Feel that misunderstood, powerful, individual strength. And also feel that bottomless, cold solitude of being isolated from the entire world. Your heart may feel a trace of sadness, a hint of injustice. But please do not let these emotions disturb your peace. You are just a quiet, compassionate observer. We ponder, besides this lonely, thorny path, does a nonconformist woman, unwilling to submit to fate, have any other sanctuary where she can place her soul? The answer is yes. In our next chapter, we will visit the quiet garden, hidden behind high walls. And for now, just allow your body and mind to rest in this profound, silent stillness of the wise woman. Let this loneliness transform into a deeper, undisturbed, absolute tranquility. The profound, silent stillness of the wise woman still lingers in your consciousness. It is a feeling of cold solitude, born of being isolated from the world, but also a feeling of misunderstood, powerful, individual strength. Now, allow your consciousness to slowly rise up from that lonely cottage at the edge of the village. We ponder, besides this lonely, thorny path, does a nonconformist woman, unwilling to submit to fate, have any other sanctuary where she can place her soul? The answer is yes. Your consciousness travels over the village, over the fields, and arrives at a more open, more tranquil place. You see, in a green valley, a complex of buildings completely enclosed by high, gray stone walls. This is a medieval convent for women. From the outside, it appears guarded, even isolated from the world. The high walls seem to be rejecting everything from the outside world. But, as your consciousness, like a gentle breeze, softly passes over these high walls and enters its interior, what you feel is an unprecedented, ultimate, and protected peace. This is another world. A self-sufficient, tranquil kingdom, belonging only to women. The first thing you smell is the unique, clean, and sacred scent in the air, a mixture of burning beeswax, ancient stone, and the fragrance of earth and plants. You hear that there is no crowing of roosters or barking of dogs here as there was in the village, no hustle and bustle of the marketplace. Here, there are only very soft, very serene sounds. There is the distant, resonant tolling of a bell from the chapel, the light, uniform sound of the nuns' footsteps as they walk along the stone pathways, and also, the gentle chorus of the wind, like a prayer, as it blows through the tall trees in the courtyard. This was one of the few places where a medieval woman could escape the secular world, a world dominated by men, filled with desire and conflict. It was another path in life, an alternative to marriage and motherhood. Now, let us follow the rhythm of life here, and experience a day in the life of a nun. The sky is just beginning to lighten. A melodious, ethereal song awakens you from your deep sleep. You come to the convent's chapel. It is a small, simple church, built of stone. Light filters in through the high, narrow stained glass windows, creating rainbow-like beams in the air. Within these beams, the smoke from burning incense rises in hazy swirls. You see dozens of women, dressed in simple black or gray habits, standing in neat rows. Their heads are covered by wimples, and their faces are free of any makeup, possessing only a serene and holy expression, born from long years of prayer and self-discipline. They are performing the morning prayer. Their song is a Gregorian chant. It is a pure, a cappella human chorus, without any instrumental accompaniment. The melody is smooth and long, not striving for any technical skill or emotional display, but simply offering praise to God in the most simple, most pious way. You feel this song, like a light from heaven, filling the entire chapel. It seems to wash away all the fine dust and unease from your soul, allowing your entire being to enter a state of extreme relaxation, extreme serenity, as if you are enveloped in the sacred. After the morning prayer, there is a simple and silent breakfast. And then, the day's work begins. You come to the back courtyard of the convent, where there is a well-tended, orderly medicinal herb garden. You see several nuns, quietly working in the garden. The warm sunlight shines down upon them. You can smell the rich fragrance of various herbs in the air. There is the sweet, relaxing scent of lavender, the fresh, invigorating scent of rosemary. You see an elderly nun, kneeling on the ground, very gently pulling the weeds from around the medicinal herbs with her calloused hands. Her movements are so focused, so full of love. It is as if she is not tending to ordinary plants, but to her own children. Another, younger nun, is carrying a wooden bucket, watering the plants that need more moisture. You feel that their work, though it is a form of labor, is free from the heavy sense of exhaustion you saw in the peasant women who struggled for their livelihood. Their labor is more like a spiritual practice, a quiet dialogue with nature and with life. Here, they are not only cultivating herbs that can heal the body's ailments. They are also, through this simple, repetitive, and life-affirming work, healing and settling their own souls. Besides the work in the garden, there is another, more important sanctuary of knowledge in the convent. That is the scriptorium. Your consciousness arrives in a quiet, bright room. You see several nuns, bent over long desks, engaged in a task that requires extreme patience and skill, copying scriptures. In an age before printing, every book was a unique, precious work of art. And these nuns were among the most important disseminators of knowledge of their time. You see one nun, using a quill pen that has been sharpened to a fine point, dipping it in ink, and stroke by stroke, copying passages from the Bible onto a smooth, expensive sheet of parchment. Beside her is the original manuscript. She must ensure that every letter she writes is identical to the original. This requires ultimate focus, and a steady hand strength that comes from years and years of practice. You hear that the only sound in the entire room is the very faint, rhythmic, scratching sound of the quill pen moving across the parchment. This sound is one of the most beautiful sounds of this era. It is the sound of knowledge being passed on, being preserved. Other nuns are painting exquisite illustrations and decorations for the manuscripts that have already been copied. They use gold leaf, silver leaf, and various brightly colored pigments ground from minerals, to paint intricate patterns and holy images in the margins of the pages. You see these women, their hands are able to both work the soil, and also to create such breathtakingly beautiful works of art. Here, within these high walls, they have found an intellectual and artistic freedom that was almost impossible to obtain in the outside world. Their lives are simple, disciplined. They have vowed to be content with poverty, to remain chaste, to be absolutely obedient. But at the same time, they have also escaped the fate that most women of that era could not avoid, the endless risks of childbirth, the heavy burden of domestic chores, and the complete physical dependence on a husband and family. In this quiet, supportive community of women, they support each other, learn from each other, and serve a higher, spiritual goal together. They have built for themselves a safe, spiritual garden, one that can withstand all the storms of the secular world. Now, just allow your consciousness to rest in this quiet garden, within these high walls. Feel the ethereal, holy sound of the choir singing in the chapel at dawn. Feel the healing scent of the herb garden in the afternoon, a mixture of sunlight, earth, and plants. Feel the ultimate, peaceful quiet of the scriptorium at night, accompanied only by the sound of your own breathing as you witness the copying of sacred texts. This is an isolated, protected, purely spiritual world. Your journey is not yet over. In our next chapter, we will visit a form of spiritual practice even more extreme, more total in its seclusion. But for now, in the absolute peace of this garden within high walls, allow your body and mind to find a most deep and thorough rest. The peace and serenity of that garden within high walls still lingers in your consciousness. The ethereal hymns of the morning choir, the healing fragrance of the afternoon herb garden, the profound quiet of the scriptorium at night, it was a pure, protected spiritual world. Your journey, however, is not yet over. We will now visit a form of spiritual practice even more extreme, more total in its seclusion, than life in the convent. Let our consciousness travel now to 14th century England, to the city of Norwich. You see an ancient church, built of grey stone. And attached to one side of the church, there is a very, very small, separate room, also built of stone. This small room has only one tiny, slit-like window that opens to the outside world. This is the lifelong residence, and also the tomb, of an anchoress. To be anchored means, like a ship dropping its anchor, to be permanently moored here. A woman who chose to become an anchoress would voluntarily be permanently enclosed in this small, tomb-like cell, never to step into the outside world again. It is an almost unimaginable, extremely austere choice. But for some devout women, who yearn to completely escape the turmoil of the secular world, this was the ultimate sanctuary, the closest thing to heaven they could find on earth. Now, let us together witness the solemn ceremony of a woman named Julian as she becomes an anchoress. You see Julian, a devout woman in her 30s, lying quietly in the center of the church. A black cloth is draped over her, as if she were already deceased. The bishop is conducting a solemn mass for her, a ceremony much like a funeral. You hear the bishop chanting prayers in Latin, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. After the ceremony, Julian stands up, and under the watchful eyes of the congregation, she silently walks into the small stone cell that has been prepared for her beside the church. Then, the stonemasons begin to use bricks and mortar to completely, permanently, seal the door of the cell from the outside. You can hear the sound of the stones, being fitted and mortared together. The sound is low, final. When the last stone is put in place, the entire world becomes quiet. Julian, from this moment on, is completely and utterly cut off from the bustling, mortal world of life and death. She has, while still alive, entered her own tomb. Now, allow your consciousness to pass through this thick stone wall, to enter the interior of this cell, and to feel Julian's world. It is very, very small. So small that it can barely contain a simple bed, a small table, and a small altar. If you were to stretch out your arms, you could almost touch both walls. It is also very, very dim. Light can only barely filter in through two small windows. And these two windows are her entire connection to the entire universe. The first window opens into the interior of the church. Through this window, she can see the church's altar, she can see the holy candles that burn there year-round. She can hear the distant sound of the choir singing. She can also receive the Holy Sacrament through this window. This window is her connection to the world of God. The other window opens onto the street outside. This window is usually covered with a black curtain, to prevent her from seeing the chaotic scenes of the outside world. Villagers will pass the simplest of daily food and water to her through an opening beneath this window. And when the villagers encounter troubles, feel pain, or have committed sins they need to confess, they will also come to this window, to pour out their hearts to this holy, living saint, who has voluntarily chosen to pray for the world, seeking divine guidance and comfort. This window is her only connection to the world of man. Besides these two small windows, all that is left here is an endless, deep, and absolute silence. You might think that such a life is an unbearable, cruel imprisonment. But for Julian, when she lost the entire tangible, material world, her inner world gained an unprecedented, infinitely vast, and free spiritual universe. You feel that most of her time is spent in a state of deep, quiet meditation. Her breath becomes very, very slow and long. Her heartbeat also becomes very, very steady and strong. She no longer cares about the passage of time. For her, day and night, spring and winter, have lost their meaning. Her entire life has become a long, intimate dialogue with God. And in this ultimate, secluded silence, she begins to see things that mortals cannot see, revelations of divine love. She sees that God is not, as the Church often proclaimed, a majestic, stern Father God who judges the world with sin and punishment. In the visions she sees, God is a loving, gentle being, like a mother. You can almost hear her, in her heart, recording her insights in the ancient English of her time. For our God is our mother, as truly as He is our Father. In our mother, Jesus, we grow and develop. In mercy, He reforms and restores us. This was an incredibly bold and revolutionary theological idea for that era. She believed that human sin was not unforgivable, and that God's love for humanity was unconditional, eternal. Her most famous saying is the one that God Himself spoke to her in a vision, a phrase full of ultimate comfort. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. You can feel that when Julian passed these holy insights, full of compassion and hope, through that small window to the suffering people who came to her for comfort, she, in this small, tomb-like cell, lit a warm, inextinguishable candle for the suffering medieval world. Though she was confined in the smallest space in the world, her soul had obtained the greatest freedom in the universe. Now, just allow your consciousness to rest in this small, dim, yet love-filled cell of the anchoress. Feel that ultimate freedom that is born from extreme confinement. Feel that most profound revelation from the universe, that is heard only in absolute silence. Your body, at this moment, is also as if it has entered an absolutely safe, undisturbed cell. All the turmoil of the world is shut out beyond the high walls. And your mind, like Julian's, becomes incredibly vast, incredibly free. Our journey will continue. In the next chapter, we will visit another woman, one who did not choose to confine herself, but instead chose a more active, more worldly way to challenge the male-dominated world. But for now, in this unparalleled, inner, and vast peace, allow your body and mind to find a most deep and thorough rest. That ultimate freedom, born from extreme confinement, still echoes within your consciousness. That revelation of the universe, full of compassion and hope, heard only in absolute silence, has left your heart feeling incredibly peaceful and vast. Our journey will continue. Now, allow our consciousness to leave the small cell of the mystic, Julian, and travel once more across time and space, to 14th century France. We are going to visit another woman, one who also possessed an extraordinary soul. Her name is Christine de Pizan. The path she chose was not one of seeking divine revelation inward, but one of using knowledge and reason to build logic and dignity outward. Christine was fortunate. She was born in Venice in 1364. Her father was a renowned physician and astrologer. When Christine was just a small child, her father was appointed to the court of King Charles V of France, becoming a royal scholar. And so, Christine's childhood was spent in an incredibly privileged environment, one filled with books and intellectual curiosity. Imagine yourself now, arriving at the magnificent French royal court of that era. You see that little Christine, unlike other girls who spent their days learning needlework and domestic chores, was given a unique opportunity. Her father, progressive for his time, believed that his daughter's mind also needed to be nurtured with knowledge. And so, Christine was allowed to be educated alongside her brothers, receiving the finest education available to a girl at that time. You see her, sitting in a vast royal library that is like a treasure vault. She is surrounded by rows of tall shelves, filled with precious, hand-copied manuscripts on parchment. You can smell the unique scent in the air, a mixture of leather, old paper, and ink, the very fragrance of knowledge. In her small hands, she holds a thick book, written in Latin, on classical literature and philosophy. Her eyes are filled with curiosity and a yearning for this wide, wide world. Her life had a fairy tale beginning. At the age of 15, she was married to a young and promising nobleman who also served at the court. It was an arranged match, but in a rare exception for that era, this marriage was filled with genuine love and mutual respect. For the next 10 years, she lived a life of peace and happiness. She was a dutiful wife and a loving mother to 3 children. She often wrote beautiful ballads and poems about love, which earned her the admiration of her learned peers in the courtly salons. Her life seemed so perfect. However, the cruelty of fate always seems to arrive at the most unexpected moments. In the space of just a few short years, a sudden outbreak of plague first took the life of her beloved father. And soon after, it took the life of her deeply loved husband. In that year, Christine was only 25. You can feel that the light in her world, in an instant, seemed to be extinguished. She was now a widow, and an orphan. She had to raise 3 young children, all by herself, in a world that was incredibly unkind to women without the protection of a man. To make matters worse, due to legal disputes, most of the property left by her husband was frozen. She and her children were immediately plunged into financial desperation. You see her, just like all the women we have visited before, seemingly at a dead end of fate. She could, like most widows, choose to remarry, or depend on a male relative, living out the rest of her life in humility, at the mercy of others. But Christine did not choose this path. She made a decision that was, for its time, almost earth-shattering, a decision of unbelievable courage. She would use her quill, and the knowledge she had acquired since childhood, to support her family. She would become Europe's first professional female author. Now, allow your consciousness to arrive in her study. It is a cold, simple room. To save money, the fire in the hearth is not burning brightly. You see Christine, sitting alone at her desk. She is wrapped in thick, plain clothing. Before her, there is only a stack of parchment, a bottle of ink, and a quill pen. Outside the window, the night is deep. You can hear the sound of the cold wind, like a mournful cry, as it blows past the window. But on Christine's face, there is not a trace of fear or retreat. Her gaze is incredibly firm, incredibly focused. She picks up her pen, and begins to write. You can hear the constant, determined, soft scratching sound of the quill tip as it moves across the rough parchment. This sound is no longer the elegant pastime of the boudoir, meant to while away the hours. This sound is the most powerful, silent cry of a woman, for survival, for dignity, for the protection of her children. This is her rebellion of the quill. At first, she wrote love poems and ballads to meet the demands of the market. But as her reputation and confidence grew, she began to turn her pen to grander, and more dangerous, subjects. She began to write about politics, about war, about social ethics. And her greatest work was the immortal masterpiece, the Book of the City of Ladies. The reason she created this work was because she had read the writings of the male scholars and clerics of her time, writings that were filled with vicious degradation and attacks against women. Those texts depicted women as inherently flawed in morality and intellect, as evil and dangerous beings. Christine was deeply wounded by these words. And so, she decided to use her pen to build an impregnable, ideal city, belonging only to women. In this book, with incredibly elegant yet incisive prose, she refuted, one by one, the prejudiced accusations against women. She argued that if women were given the same educational opportunities as men, they too could achieve the same heights in virtue, learning, and leadership. You see, under her pen, the great women of history, those who had been forgotten and denigrated, are summoned forth once more, one by one, to receive the immortal glory they deserve. There is Hypatia of ancient Alexandria, the great female scholar who was brutally murdered by a mob for daring to teach philosophy and mathematics. There is Queen Semiramis of ancient Assyria, a brilliant military tactician who conquered vast territories. And there is the one we have mentioned before, the venerable abbess with divine visions and extraordinary musical talent, Hildegard of Bingen. Christine, with these true stories, was like a quarryman, digging out hard, shining stones. And then, with these stones, she built for all women a strong, spiritual city, one that could withstand any slander or attack. This was, for its time, an incredibly radical, revolutionary idea. It was like the first match struck in a long, dark tunnel ruled by the words of men. Though the flame was small, it was enough to illuminate a new path towards equality. Of course, her voice also drew harsh criticism and mockery from many in the male establishment. But Christine refused to be silenced. She continued to write prolifically until the end of her life, leaving behind a body of work that would continue to inspire and encourage generations of women to come. Now, just allow your consciousness to rest in this study belonging to Christine, a room that is cold, but filled with strength. Feel the faint, yet incredibly resilient light, that comes from the flickering candle. Listen to the quiet, uncompromising sound of the quill as it writes upon the paper. Feel that great, solitary courage of a woman, in a world that did not belong to her, using knowledge and reason to carve out a path of survival for herself, and for all of her sisters. Your journey is approaching its end. In the final chapter, we will look back together upon all these different forms of resilience, and finally, find an eternal respect and tranquility in our own hearts. But for now, in this quiet and powerful spirit of rebellion brought by the tip of a quill, allow your body and mind to find a most deep and powerful rest. The shadow of that quill, held by Christine de Pizan, writing tirelessly by candlelight late into the night, lengthens and deepens in your consciousness. That was not just a woman writing, that was a soul, with all its might, building an impregnable city of ladies, out of words, for herself, and for all of her silent sisters. This quiet and powerful strength, this will to make one's voice heard even in the face of adversity, is the ultimate core of the journey we have sought to explore. Now, allow our consciousness to slowly, very, very gently, return from those distant medieval stories to our own, quiet present moment. Return to your comfortable, safe bedroom where you are resting now. Feel your body being supported by the soft surface beneath you. Feel the just right warmth of the light blanket that covers you. Our journey is about to end. But the images we have witnessed, of the lives of medieval women, have left a deep and indelible mark upon our hearts. Let us, one last time, quietly review them in our minds. We saw the tired, gentle mother, humming a lullaby by the hearth for her newborn daughter. We saw the focused, obedient young girl, learning her destiny, day after day, at the spinning wheel. We saw the bride, before a stranger's vow, swallowing her tears and bravely shouldering the responsibility of her family. We saw the silent mistress of the house, with her heavy ring of keys, guarding her home with her wisdom and labor. We saw the great mother in the dim birthing room, supported by her fellow women, opening the door of life and death. We saw the lonely, wise woman, shrouded in the shadow of ignorance and fear. We saw the learned nun, who found spiritual freedom in the garden within high walls. We saw the mysterious anchoress, who gazed upon the entire universe from within her sealed cell. And we saw the writer, who, with the tip of her quill, waged a quiet and unyielding rebellion for the dignity of all women. Their stories are filled with hardship, with constraints, with injustice, and even with suffering. Their world was an unkind one, a world that saw them as secondary, as property, as beings born with original sin. But, as we look back on all of this, what we feel in our hearts is not only oppression and sorrow. In that thick, suffocating darkness, we saw something more powerful, something that no force could ever extinguish. And that is their resilience. You can feel it, a life force like that of wild grass, seemingly soft and fragile, yet incredibly tenacious. No matter how it is trampled, no matter how it is ignored, with just a sliver of soil, a drop of rain, it will stubbornly grow out from the cracks in the stone, stretching its leaves toward the sky. They, in the narrow spaces where almost all of their rights have been taken away, still strive to find and create their own small meanings. In their families, they became the emotional bonds, the transmitters of culture. In their communities, they formed powerful networks of mutual support among women. In hardship, they held each other up, they comforted each other. Their contributions may not have been written into the grand heroic epics. Their names have mostly been buried by the dust of history. But it was these millions upon millions of silent, resilient women, who, with their labor, their endurance, their devotion, and their hope that was never truly extinguished, together built the deepest, broadest, and most solid, unseen foundation of all of medieval civilization. Now, let us, in our hearts, pay them our deepest respects. We thank them for enduring the hardships we can scarcely imagine. And we thank them for using their seemingly faint, yet never extinguished candlelight, passed down from generation to generation, to illuminate the long road ahead for us. We are standing, at this very moment, on the path they paved with their lives. We enjoy the rights and freedoms that they once dreamed of, yet could never reach. We have the right to learn, to work, to choose our own partners, to decide our own lives. We no longer have to live in fear of violence and ignorance. We are separated from them by hundreds of long years. But we, as people who also pursue dignity, safety, and freedom, our souls, at this moment, are connected. We can feel their pain, and we can also feel their strength. And this empathy that transcends time will transform into a deeper appreciation for the present, and a quieter sense of responsibility for the future, deep within our hearts. We know that the road to true equality is still long. But when we feel tired, when we feel discouraged, we can always return to this dreamscape to visit them. And from their silent resilience, we can draw the endless strength to continue moving forward. Now, this long, epic journey into the lives of our female ancestors has finally, truly, come to a close. Let all the distant stories, and all the complex emotions, gradually settle, becoming a quiet and warm foundation deep within your heart. You feel safe. You feel understood. And you feel filled with strength. In this deep empathy for the past, and this total appreciation for the present, allow your body and your mind to receive the most complete, most profound, and most perfect rest. Good night, my dear friend. Our journey is now complete. It is time, now, to enter your own, most peaceful, most sweet dream. Sleep now. Deeply. Serenely. Sleep.